Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to be here today, and the reason is that I would have never expected the event I started to organize a month and a half ago would gather this much people. And I would like to thank someone in particular, Aaron. I don't know, where is he now? Aaron Ting, you're here? Because if we are all here tonight, it's somehow thanks to you, because you like the idea of organizing a blockchain for non-fintech use cases event, and then you introduced me Rene and the guys from Magic and Surya and everyone. So thank you very much for your help. So now I think I should introduce myself before introducing what PUBLIQ is doing. So interestingly, I'm going to introduce you media projects, but I'm myself an ex-banker. Nobody's perfect. So, I was living and working in Hong Kong, and I decided in 2014-15 to basically move and work in the fintech space. So I founded 2 startups that were basically in charge of building proof of concept for banks, logistic companies, and insurers. And no need to tell you that I spend most of my time at the very high hype cycle explaining to people and bankers that their use case is not relevant with blockchain. They don't need blockchain. They need a distributed database. They need still decentralized database, but in a different way. So it was pain in the ass, sorry for the expression, to work with them. And I very quickly realized that one of the most relevant use cases was not banking today. It might become a few years from now, I'm sure of it, but the media industry in general. So I want to give you a bit of background about why I started PUBLIQ. So as all of you know, we are like 7.5 billion people today around the world. Around half of us have access to the internet. There's still a lot of efforts to be done for the world to access this internet penetration, but half of us around the world have access to the internet. There are some projects that are going to make this number get increased. SpaceX with Elon Musk, who wants to launch 4,000 satellites to provide internet for everyone. Facebook and their solar drones that wants to provide internet in Africa for free. So in 2020, I think that this figure will be completely in another league. So get ready for that. The second interesting part is that we all have today devices that connect us to the internet, that connect us to the media industry, social media, WeChat, WhatsApp, all this other way of communicating. And it's actually quite great because the internet broadband is getting faster. We do have internet in a much more larger way. And we have devices that cost around even $25. For instance, Mozilla Firefox made a smartphone at $25. And it's going to get cheaper and cheaper. And I'm pretty sure everybody in this room has a smartphone. I would be surprised if somebody doesn't have a smartphone. The second thing that is very good for our society, we do have more and more data that is coming to us. If some of you are familiar with the big data industry, you might have heard about this figure. Every 2 days, we create as much information as we did from the beginning of time until 2003. So this just shows you the enormous amount of data that comes to us every single day. Okay, and it comes on the internet, it comes on our devices, and it comes into our brain. So it's pretty important to make sure that the data that comes to us is somehow of a quality, or at least filtered at some point. It's going to get bigger and bigger. Some of you might have heard about the Hadoop market, which is an open source framework that helps to process very large data sets. We have some tools to allow big data to get bigger and larger. Social medias currently are acting as spider on the internet, because as you know, centralized media company are posting content on their platform, and Facebook, Instagram, and every other social media basically grab this data somehow for free and broadcast them on their platforms. And they not only grab this data from very serious or trustable media, but they grab it from everywhere. So you can call part of this data garbage because you have a lot of fake news and alternative facts that are coming from it. But at least these figures are very good because basically we have more and more data coming to us. We have internet, we have devices, so we should all be happy, right? However, there's one problem. Today we have reached probably the lowest point ever of trust towards media. Here I picked these statistics, and I talk about Ireland, Canada, and Colombia. I could have talked about any other countries around the world. I'm pretty sure if you ask the people what are their feeling and sentiments towards media, they will tell you that trust is really hard to basically have right now. And the reason is, obviously, there is fake news and alternative facts, but the impact that it has on the society is quite huge. So if you talk about Donald Trump's election, for instance, and the rise of fake news, or if you talk about Brexit, where some of the polls that were published were not correct or not accurate, then the impact that it had on the society was pretty direct and pretty huge. You all know who's Donald Trump, and I don't need to talk about it. So there are some initiatives that are taken today to tackle that. Facebook, for instance, is trying to build an AI that combat fake news, or at least spot the fake news and make sure that they decrease the number of published fake news. The only problem that I see here is that why would I trust Facebook as a private company that has shareholders and that is American, for instance, to build this AI and tell me what's true or what's not? I like that idea. I just want to make sure that I can trust them. Right now, I'm not at Facebook, and Facebook is American and it has shareholders with political affiliations, etc. So I think that we can find better ways to combat fake news. Same for Google, trying to combat fake news from the search results. Google is doing something quite interesting in Africa. They are remunerating, or at least financing programs for African journalists to learn how to edit articles or to become journalists. The first question that comes to my mind is, who's going to pay these people, right? Is the internet model that we have today good enough to remunerate the authors that post content? Or is it broken? I think that today, I think all of you know, it's all incentivized about volume. It's all about volume, it's not about quality. So you just need to publish, and as long as you get the clicks, it doesn't matter if it's fake news or real news. People cannot even make the difference today. That's very dangerous. Then you get the volume, you get the money, and you're happy, right? So I think that the internet is kind of broken apart today, and it's pretty weird because we have a lot of technologies around us, AI, machine learning, blockchain, etc., that might be here to help us. Right now, today, we don't have this, and we have the lowest point of trust ever in the history. So there is obviously a problem. Apple, somebody else, very famous, basically telling us what's the impact of fake news. Online media is educating us today. You can talk about Wikipedia that I checked from high school to today, every week basically, to any other platforms. It educates us. And I don't even need to speak about very young millennials that are educated through social media. So somehow we should be worried about it today, but it's a reality, and we need to find tools or to build tools that tackle this rise of fake news, alternative facts, and poor quality content. So there are a few other problems that everybody knows, unfair publishing and payment practices. So it's very hard today to be an author of articles because when you get rejected for your article, sometimes it takes time and you don't get paid for it. So you can forget about having a fixed salary today. It's kind of a luxury. Over-centralization of the platform. So here we can talk about the technical side of it with the data that is centralized into these companies, and they basically decide how they want to post the content, and they can modify it whatever they want. The wealth generated is not transparently redistributed, so we don't know how many intermediaries are in between me as an author and the reader, and we don't know where gets the money made from the advertisement and the current economic model. Micropayment solutions. You might have read some articles on some of these websites where you can pay the article and pay the author. There's just one problem. Today with social media, you can find all the information for free. So we need to find a way to make the content free, but to make it of quality. And if you want to use PayPal to pay for, I don't know, an article or content today, that's great because you might pay for what you like. And at least people know exactly which author deserves to be, have a good reputation. The problem is that in terms of user experience, it's not convenient right now. And you don't want, as a reader, to pay for every article that you read. You want to have access to it, ideally for free. I already said it, fake news and alternative facts. It's even coming from the White House. It's not even me inventing this expression of alternative facts. And it's kind of scaring. So I think that if we can change the mind of human beings, telling them to stop using this kind of information, we might use technology to help us. And we have these technologies available. So how can we... There's no silver bullets to combat fake news. I don't think tomorrow we can create a world without fake news. I just think that we can harness the power of new technologies, blockchain being one of them, to basically restrain people from having this wrong incentive or making volume for money. Set a fair and transparent remuneration mechanism. Mate from Descent told you a little bit about Amazon or even all the other intermediaries and what kind of slices of the income they keep. Are they really relevant? Do we really need them right now? Somehow, yes, because they do some self-checking, etc. But if you take the example of Facebook, I think they make a lot of money and the users are not receiving any of them. And I think that we create an ecosystem where people are incentivized to post their content, to post quality content, and to have a reputation, basically. Set the remuneration depending on the reputation. I'm going to explain it. And finally, it's relevant for the media industry the same way it's relevant for the fintech industry or any other industry you work for, user experience. If you create or if you have a project or a startup and your UX is poor, or if it doesn't inspire trust, then you can forget about it because people don't want to use something that sounds, shady. So blockchain. I'm going to be the third person trying to explain. I'm not going to go into details. I just like to explain it this way to everyone, basically, specialist or not. For me, blockchain is about three things. So before being a technology, it's a technique. So it's a technique of encryption where blocks of data are tied one after the other and are hashed. They have a cryptographical code. Okay? Then it's about distributed ledger, which means you share this same blockchain everywhere into a network. You can talk about Bitcoin or any other blockchain network. You have a blockchain, it's shared, and everybody has a copy. And every time there will be transactions, the network, through a consensus mechanism, will validate if what I'm giving you is really mine, and if I haven't given it to somebody else before. That's it. And it's as simple as that. And it's for a very smart algorithm, and this is what we call general blockchain technology. And the third thing I want to mention is smart contracts. So some of you here know about Ethereum. I heard about it. And they have been the first one, basically, to implement smart contracts and to propose people, any one of us, to build their own smart contracts. So what is smart contracts? It's not that smart, actually. Smart contracts are just pieces of code that automate executions of actions. So I've been coding macros in banking, and when using VBA, you just work with the logic. If this happened, then that happened. Okay, it's pretty easy. But why do we call them smart here is because they are immutable when they are in the blockchain. And when me, as a company, I agree with the other company that I will receive these funds when the goods will arrive at the port of Shanghai or wherever, and we fix it on the blockchain, and it's disseminated into the network, somebody cannot come back on it. It's there, it's going to happen automatically. So think about back office, middle office, discrepancy management, etc., etc. And here you might think also about banking. There is a potential, but there's a long way to go and a lot of work to do with regulators. But that's another topic. Use cases. I think it's the third slide we see today with this pretty much same architecture. There are a lot. I could have put like use cases until the wall there. What I want to say is that as I spend some of my time with bankers explaining why it's relevant to use blockchain or not, it's very important to just realize when do you need blockchain. I mean, some banks ask me to build a blockchain POC for the KYC mechanism. KYC is about like client screening, client profiles. And the thing is that they wanted to implement it into their own entities, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore. It's very simple. It doesn't make sense to do that because people trust each other into this network. They're in the same company. So why then you don't use a distributed database, right? So think about blockchain as a way to, destroy the lack of trust and bring trust into an ecosystem. An ecosystem where people don't trust each other, don't know each other, and they want to use a database or systems of data processing that basically empower and build the trust itself. So what's PUBLIQ? What are we doing? First, we are based in Switzerland, and we have like a team in Eastern Europe, in Slovakia, in Armenia as well. I'm based in Hong Kong. And we're trying to build an environment, basically a free media environment with no self-censorship, and that is not centralized. And it's a blockchain-based decentralized digital content distribution network. Sounds a bit like what Mate says, but this is why we also rely partly on the Descent platform. I'm going to explain it. And we focus on news and articles. And then we try to basically reward people depending of one thing, their reputation. And that reputation is set depending of the readers. And that's it. It's no private company. It's no shady intermediaries or opaque structure that decide about it. The readers decide who's the best, or at least who provide quality content. And you might tell me it might not be, it might be fake news. It might be, but I think that if you make an accountable every single offers, and if you tell them that whatever happens on the platform is immutable and gonna create a lifetime reputation, I think that it will responsibilize more than one of them. And that's the objective that we wanna reach. And to do that, we're going to use the same way Decent use DCT, our own token that's going to be used for different features that I'm going to explain. So it's not just about rewards, it's also about different things. So that's a big picture of the platform. To explain it very quickly, the same way you post the content on Decent and it's encrypted here in Public, you're going to post your content, it's going to be encrypted, stored. The content itself will be encrypted and stored off-chain, and the hash of the content onto the blockchain. Because, as a reminder, blockchain is not meant to store every kind of documents. If you think about legal documents that are 100 pages, etc., don't think about blockchain. Think about another way, where you store the hash of the content, for instance. Once this content is encrypted and stored by the seeders, we basically give a free access to the readers, who provide their feedbacks and just view these articles. What we do is that we build on top of it our own structure that collect these feedbacks, and every single 24 hours, basically we calculate the reputation of offers, and we just update it, right? So it's set on the blockchain, and it's a lifetime reputation. So if you mess with the articles, if you do something wrong, then it's gonna stay. So you better work on your articles and make sure that you provide quality content, or at least even true content. So as explained just earlier, we are in the app, partially using a Decent protocol. And again, our ambition is pretty simple. We want to build a free platform that provides free articles, but that change the incentive and move it from volume to quality. So I mentioned lifetime reputation. I think it's the most important thing. I said it, content needs to be free. People want the content to be free. Okay, that's a great thing, right? But how do you make sure that this content is not fake news, or it's not, diverging from the reality? Okay, using blockchain is one way of making sure that your reputation is there and it's not gonna move. If you want to make it better, it's up to you to work for it. But depending on what people think of you as an offer, the other offers or the other readers might know who you are as an offer. They might trust you, or they might know what are your political preferences, etc. I think it brings a little bit more of trust here, because there's no intermediary into this ecosystem. It's all about offers and readers. And only the readers can decide again about these reputations. So it's very quick workflow describing what happens. I just want to emphasize on channels, because my goal is not to disrupt this provider, to rely on a platform where they can even post the articles and have just free people from everywhere checking them. And what it's going to do is that it might create a new way of remunerating their own offers, right? So they are not going to disappear with such platforms. I think it's kind of helpful for them to make sure that their own offers can have their own salary remuneration from these companies, and they can also have the chance to be judged by the public and to have that reputation that is basically possibly shareable on the internet, and you can just say to everyone what you are worth in such a free platform, basically. So it wouldn't be possible to create such a platform without like different, very important participants. So I said that we do remunerate offers, right? And you might wonder where tokens come from. Is it created from the sky, from the blue? No. Actually, there is a business model behind it. So on one side, you have the offer. Obviously, on the other side, the readers that can access to the articles either on the channels that can use API to basically post the articles, or on the public interface directly. Then you have the seeders, somehow relying on the Decent protocol, where people that have free storage space can share their storage and can also make money from it. You have the nodes that basically are going to mine first on one side every single seeder's action, and on the other side every single transaction that will be made through smart contracts for the rewards, because offers are going to be rewarded not by a back office, not by somebody, but by the smart contracts and the blockchain itself, depending on their reputation. And advertisers, they have a very important role. It's a non-profit foundation. I might have to remind it again, but basically whatever we get from advertisers, we're going to redistribute it to each of the participants that manage to help us to sustain the platform. So all of them here are basically helping to sustain the platform. especially, of course, the authors that post the content and that deserve to be rewarded fairly, seeders, nodes, and channels as well if they participate in posting their content. So it's all about a community here. It's not about just us disrupting the whole market. It's really about the community. So just to summarize what we do, we use blockchain in two ways. The first one is about encrypting the content and sharing it all over the blockchain to make sure that it's immutable and it's not going to be modified by any narrow or opaque third party. We also use it to reward people using smart contracts. So we collect the reputation, we have it embedded into our blockchain, and we use smart contracts to send the tokens to whoever deserves it, whoever mines, whoever seeds content. Independence. Obviously, if there is no centralized third party in between that censor the articles, it's going to be an independent platform where readers can give their feedbacks, and this is what's going to represent the reputation. Advertisement. Well, what we propose to advertisers is to basically use the same kind of AI they have been using so far to post their ads. But right now they go through third parties like Google, but to directly post it on a platform where they can be sure that 100% of what they share is transparently and auditably distributed to the participants. Web distribution, I said it, it's all about smart contracts and rewards management. Reputation is key here, and PUBLIQ is made basically to create a better reputation management. So again, I said it, it's very important to that it is anchored into your minds. Utility token. So how do you post an article? You're gonna use the token, a little bit of token, or it can be worth like $1 to post your article just to avoid spamming, right? Because if you can post for free on the platform, you can post thousands of spams, make a fake reputation, collect your tokens, and just, leave whatever platform you are working on. So we have some anti-spam mechanism, and the token is also here for that. Then the token is also representing rewards, and also allow advertisers to post their ads on the platform. So whatever goes into the platform goes back to the participants, depending on what they do and how they deserve it. Channels, I explained their role. They can broadcast the content or post it. And very important is the community. So how do you make sure that the free platform is not a platform where violent content or offending content is on the rise or spiking? So basically there is a community of authors that have a good reputation and that can be part of the community to self-check that would have raised some flags. So if there is an article that is violent or against somebody, then it might raise some flags, and the community will self-check and either warn the author or even ban his access to the wallet, for instance. Okay, and that's it for me. Thank you very much.